Okay, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. We're continuing 2 Samuel chapter 20, right? Last time we stopped halfway the chapter, verse 13. And we stopped at, if you remember really quickly, there is a guy called Sheba, the son of Bikri, or Bishri, I was calling him, right? And who rose, he's from the Benjamites, where Saul is. So he was trying to bring back the, the king to Benjamin. So he kind of like dispersed or caused the people that were disputing and said, we don't want David as a king. And then King David asked, we said, Amasa to go and find and get some men to go after him. And he was delayed. And then on his way back, King David got Abishai, the son, the brother of Joab, because he didn't actually want to ask Joab, because he already removed Joab and put Amasa in charge of the army. So he kind of like asked Abishai, who would have a similar influence on the army and so on. So they started going out. Abishai got Joab to go out and seek this guy, Sheba. And then on the way, they met Amasa. And we spoke about how Joab's sword fell, and then as he was getting the sword and kissing or hugging Amasa, he kind of like just stabbed him with the sword and killed him. And this is where we stand, and every man of the army passing by sees him in his blood, and they're distracted. So we start reading from verse 13, where one of the men of Joab removed Amasa from the road, and he covered him so he does not distract, that scene does not distract soldiers from going forward. So when he was removed from the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue Sheba, the son of Bikri, or Bishri. And he went through all the tribes of Israel to Abel and Beth Makkah and all the Berites. So they were gathered together and also went after Sheba. Then they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth Makkah. And they cast up a siege mound against the city, and it stood by the rampart, and all the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. So the army came to this city where they believe that Sheba is inside the city, and they started pushing the wall back and forth. So they wanted to go and destroy. Then a wise woman cried out from the city, here, please say to Joab, come near that I may speak with you. When he had come near to hear, the woman said, are you Joab? He answered, I am. Then she said to him, hear the words of your maidservant. And he answered, I am listening. So she spoke, saying, they used to talk in former times, saying, they shall surely seek guidance at Abel, and so they would end disputes. I am among the peaceable and faithful in Israel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? Because now he's going after Israelites like fellow men. So she's telling him, why are you destroying, why you're taking This is something that does not belong to you, and this is something God gave to us. Do you want to, this is what you're after? And of course, Joab answered and said, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. He said, no, I'm not after that. I don't want to, do any thing here and this. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. So the woman said to Joab, watch, his head will be thrown to you over the wall. Look at this woman. We like, even her name is not mentioned here. And she comes through as a savior to this city, right? Who else? Like Abigail, also we find Abigail came out, and saved her family, her husband, and everyone, because she spoke wisely to King David. And now this woman is also speaking wisely. So very wise women. I hope and that we learn from these wise women, right? Not to just rush into what I would say, like just trying to be stubborn. Okay, you're coming to take our town. We're gonna stand up to you. Okay, why are you trying to take our town? Why are you trying to destroy us? Can we have a reasoning here? Can we talk about this? And then she reasoned with Joab, and she managed to convince him, then you don't need to take the whole town. We'll just give you Sheba. Sure. What's the big deal? Right? Many times, I think we get into these stubborn, positions, and it's just like, no, I'm just gonna retaliate, and the other person retaliate back, right? And many times, actually, in marriages and relationships, like two people are retaliating against each other. Meanwhile, they didn't even want to do that to begin with, right? Why are you doing that to begin with? Okay, let's sit down and talk. And this is exactly what she did. Especially in counseling, what they do, you do what she did here is called de-escalating. You do a de-escalating first, right? And then start bringing out questions, and then start discussing, and then negotiating. You don't get into negotiation right away. De-escalate, right? Ask your questions, show understanding, and then negotiate. Okay? Did you see how she did that? She de-escalated the situation. She asked questions, and he explained, and he asked a question. Then she bargained with him, and he said, okay, I'm good, fine, right? A prime example for married couples. Okay, even though these two are not married, but trying to understand, sometimes, men, they just come like they're going head spearing into one thing, but then you ask them, oh, I don't have to do it that way. Okay, you know what? Okay, can we? Okay, fine, I'm okay with that. Let's do it. Very simple. Right? Wanted to say something. This is your area, a prime example. But if you think of something, I'm gonna pass to you at the end of the chapter. Yeah. So they did that. Then Joab and verse. So 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 22. Then the woman in her wisdom went to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bishri, and threw it out to Joab. Then he blew a trumpet and they withdrew from the city, every man to his tent. So Joab returned to the king at Jerusalem. Okay. And Joab was over all the army of Israel. Benai, the son of Jehoiada, was over Sheretai and Belithites. Adoram was in charge of revenue. Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was recorder. Sheva was scribe. Zadok, the Abiathar, was the priests. And Abiathar were the priests. And the Ira, the Jerite, was chief minister under David. So just kind of like the organization of the kingdom of the government, basically. And it's just showing us now Joab has really strong hold on everything, right? And this kind of like says to David, you know, you cannot bring in another leader to the army, you know, if I don't will it, right? So yes, King David is the king, but Joab, when it comes to ruling, he has a big say into this. Okay. Abdul, تفضل if you have anything. اتفضل.
Well, I like the as your reverend said, the wisdom of this woman. And also, as Abuna said, we don't know the name of the woman. And sometimes the Bible doesn't mention names for certain people for a reason. That the Bible wants us to be like this people, like the Samaritan woman, for instance. We don't know her name. We don't know her name, but it should be me. It should be each one of us that we need that kind of repentance. Here, this woman that we do not know her name, look at her wisdom. The Bible wants us to learn from her wisdom and to be wise as her. And the wisdom from the Bible's point of view is a person can diffuse any anger or any dispute in any situation. That's what the Bible calls it, really consider it as wisdom. Exactly as Abuna mentioned in the story of David and Abigail. All what we know about Abigail, that she, in her wisdom, stopped David from committing a huge crime. And look the way she did that to him. She told him, it's not you, David. You do the wars for the Lord. You go through any war for the name of the Lord. Not you don't go to a war to take revenge for yourself, not on a personal basis. You do that for God. So this woman, she had the same approach. She told Joab, why you want to kill all of us? You are after one person, we'll give it to you. We'll give him to you, and that was it. And she did it in a very smart and convincing way. Let us learn, focus on this. A wise person is a person can stop any or diffuse any anger. It takes a lot of wisdom to reach that. Thank you.
Good. Mind you, these, I mean, like, you know, when you read the situation, you read that the soldiers were at the wall, like pushing against the wall back and forth. So imagine this wall is like, kind of like a little bit moving. So the woman actually took a risk to even come a little bit near this huge wall or part of it, right? So sometimes it takes.
And where were the men?
مش كده؟ أنا عايز أسأل بقى. I wanted to ask the same question. Where are the men? Where are the men? I think the men were on high adrenaline and like they were like ready to just want to fight.
Something else can answer back. Anyone argue that women in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, that the Bible doesn't give them, credit or honor or anything.
There is a whole book named after women in the Bible, right? Namely, how many? Do you know? 3. Ruth. Who else? Esther. The third one.
But the books, the Bible, the book.
Yeah. No, a book name.
Book. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ruth. Yeah, Ruth, Esther. Yeah. Yes. Judith. It's a good one. You got to read that book, right? It's a good book. What do you think of the book?
That's a canonical, one of the canonical.
Yeah, the other canonical books. Yeah. How was the book? Okay. Good. We had a good chat. Maybe one time we'll study that book. It's a good one. Okay, so we're moving to chapter 21. And in all these three books, the women are the main character, right, of these books. Whether Esther, Judith, or Ruth are the main characters. Okay, and they speak about God. So, good. So let's move to chapter 21. Okay. 2 Samuel chapter 21. It's gonna get interesting now, guys. Okay. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year. And David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, "It is because of Saul and his bloodthirsty house, because he killed the Gibeonites." We spoke about this last time, Abdul, a little bit. Just this verse. Okay. What did we say? Yeah. Who are the Gibeonites? So there were 3 years famine. It's the promised land. It's the land that overflow with honey and milk. And God promised them that this is the best land he's going to give them. And then all of a sudden there is a famine. What's wrong? And then King David waited a year, 2 years. And then after 3 years, he decided to go and inquire of God. Why didn't you inquire from the first year? Why didn't you even should have been in continuous communication with God? Why even wait for a famine? So now you find, number one, we should pay attention that don't wait until things get really messy, that I go back to God. And don't even wait for things to get messy. I should be always in communication with God, always inquiring of God's direction, right? So that's a very important point that we have to pay attention to. Then the most maybe bizarre thing, God comes out of nowhere and he says this is done because of Saul and his bloodthirsty house, because he killed the Gibeonites. Saul killed the Gibeonites. That was oh, how long? God, what's going on? You forgot, and now you're just remembering, and you're giving us a famine during my reign because of King Saul, whom you hated. So why didn't you just punish him? What, you get the point here? So now we're talking about close to 40 years after the fact. 40 years after the fact, what's going on, right? And then you look at this, and who are these Gibeonites to begin with? Why would God standing up for them? Why is he why are they so important to God, right? Any idea, guys? If you were with us in Joshua, do you know who the Gibeonites are? I think it's anyone. Adul, do you know which chapter? You're looking for that? Yes, exactly. Joshua chapter 10. Joshua chapter 10. We're not going to read the whole thing, but you can just flip to chapter 10 and look at it. So basically, God, when instructed Moses, he said, once you go into the land, you know, you have to drive out all the nations that are in the land. But those nations that are far, like away from you, like basically at your borders, you can make like agreements, peace agreements, or treaties, or covenant with them. Okay. So the Gibeonites are inhabitants or nations of the land of Canaan, of the promised land. So according to God, Joshua is supposed to drive them away or kill them or finish the job. So they played a game on him. They dressed in very old, really old clothes, or tired clothes, as if they're coming from really far. And they made the bread that is so dry, right, and old, so that they look like we're coming from really far. And they came to Joshua and said, hey, we are a nation and we live really far. And we're coming all this distance, and we heard of your God and how strong he is. And we want to have a covenant with you. So Joshua said, without inquiring or checking who they are really, it's like, yo, you know, he kind of like got on the adrenaline, right? And he's like, yes, happy. Someone fears us. And he gave them a promise. He gave them a covenant. And then he discovered that they're not from the land. They're from far away. It's like, what is this? You guys, like, you lied to me. You lied to me. Now, what am I gonna do? But now he's stuck. He gave them a promise that he's not gonna kill them. So he inquired with God, and then he made them live in the land, but he kind of like not enslaved them, but gave them like really low jobs, like to work the forest or cut trees, and like basically like he was on the top of everyone. Labor intensive jobs, okay, for exchange for them to still live among the Israelites. Okay, here is everything is good. So he honored the promise, the covenant, the treaty. He honored that. Comes King Saul. King Saul, he messed up with God. God tells him, do this, do that. He's not doing it, doing half job. Like drive out this nation and kill all of them. He keeps some of their cattle and everything. Oh, keep the kill the king, and he keeps the king, you know, to show off. God, and Samuel comes like, what is this? You know, and Samuel takes it into his own hands and kills the king, and as if like everything almost God told Saul to do, he didn't do a good job. He didn't finish the job. So Saul sits like, okay, now God is not giving me new jobs. I don't know how to impress him. Now, you know what? Let me look for something that God did not ask me to do, but it seems the right thing to do, and I will do it. Hopefully this will impress God. So he comes and thinks, okay, so these are the Gibeonites. They tricked Joshua, and Joshua, the fool man, he bought into it, and he gave them a covenant that they should not have had in the first place. And even when he discovered their lie, he should have still destroyed them, because it makes sense. It makes sense. You do not fool me. You do not make a fool of me, and I will just watch you, right? And then he goes and destroy them. This is what God is saying, because Saul did that. But God did not ask you. God is still honoring that covenant. God is fair. You don't like it? Too bad. But God is fair. You know, sometimes we look in our lives and it's like, doesn't make sense. وانت مالك? Did I ask you? God asked, did I ask you to fix it? If I ask you, okay. You know, the church is not handling, you know, this finances very well. Therefore, I'm not gonna pay my tithe. وانت مالك? God is going to handle that. Okay? You don't pay, that's your problem. The church is not gonna, you know, suffer, or, you know, this service is no good because you actually, they don't go after, you know, the lost one, and they're not paying attention. You know, they're like driving youth away. Okay, do help. And instead, sometimes, well, in that case, I'm just gonna speak bad about them. Oh, I'm in this service, I'm gonna leave it. Just do your job. Why you ask for something that's not asked? Why you do something that's not asked of you, and it's not your job? You know? But God is fair. God does not let these things go. Because David, in his Psalm 14, he says, you know, give an oath to your neighbor and do not go back on it. Who is a righteous man? And he gives a list of so many of them. Who a righteous man who shall dwell in the tabernacle of the Lord? And he gives a long list. And one of them is a man who gives an oath or promise to his neighbor and does not go back on it. So this shows God, even though the Israelites are God's people, but God is still fair to the other nations, right? He does not like, you know, he's not gonna go, oh, but these are my people, they can mess around all what they want. No. Come not mess around, right? Because sometimes also we do that. We go out and we think, well, I'm God's child. You know, I can do whatever I want, you know. You know, since these people do not follow God, I can, it's okay to take their money. It's okay to cheat them. No, does not make it right. Okay. So God is fair. One person's mistake does not negate or does not negate or does not change or takes away from them their rights. Okay. It's important to keep that in mind. And that's how God and our Lord Jesus Christ comes and says, love your enemies. Why love your enemy? Because they are still belonging to God. God still wants them. God still loves them. Okay? God is not going to love them less. So you have to be just a faithful son and daughter of God. So is this one clear here? This is just the first verse in this chapter. It's gonna get ugly. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna get there or not. It's gonna get ugly. Did you guys get this one? Did you anyone turn into chapter 10 and found where Saul did that? Joshua chapter 10, okay. Now the question, I want to ask you actually the question. So if that's the case, why God didn't punish Saul? Why it's coming up now in the times of David? Why? Doesn't it make sense that God will punish Saul? Isn't that just common sense? What do you think? To teach David a lesson about what? To strengthen him, okay. Good, explain more. Yes.
Maybe to teach him that his decision also mattered for the next generation. For example, like Saul, if his decision affected a generation after him, and so you made it to sign for Saul, so whatever your decision you're making now, it will have also an effect on the next generation. And that's how we live all the time. We're always a beneficiary, or we get affected from our past or past generations.
Good. I like that. We're always indebted to the generation before us, and we pay it forward. Good, good. So to teach him to take care of the generation after. What I do today will affect the generation after, just like what Saul did. It's affecting the generation after. I like that. Good. That's one reason. Good. Another one. What do you think if God tried to tell Saul what you did is wrong? Now, this is really digging a bit deeper into God's wisdom, which nobody can understand. But what do you think if he asks or he tells Saul or punishes him for that? Saul is already struggling in his relationship with God. Exactly. So Saul is actually going to completely give up on God. Like nothing is pleasing you. You know? So basically God is, yes, applying justice, but he's gonna drive Saul even further away. But by kind of like turning a blind eye for a time, okay, it's kind of at least giving Saul a little bit of hope, or like giving him a chance to come back. And even if Saul decides to please God, where he was, probably he was not gonna apply justice God's way, okay? Because he was far from God. So God chose kind of like David, so he can do his work. He can do God's work God's way. Okay, as we're gonna see how he's gonna do that. Saul is a very practical, like, give me a task and I will just do it. Even if I do have job, it's okay, still do it. Right? So many times we cannot understand why God is doing a certain thing at the moment. We will understand it maybe later. And maybe sometimes even we don't understand, we don't get it. Because he's God. He's God. His wisdom, his understanding is beyond our human capacity of wisdom. Okay? Because sometimes, you know, I'm in a tribulation or like a trial, or like I'm struggling with something I don't understand. Like, is it because of a sin? Okay, I'm gonna go and confess. Nothing changed. You know, because what? Other people around me? Okay, I'm gonna leave this group of people. Nothing changed. Is it I'm not praying enough? Okay, I'm gonna pray more. Is it I'm not going to church? Okay, I'm gonna go to church. Nothing is happening. Now what? You know, and sometimes we get so consumed trying to figure out why. And sometimes it's just, there's no point. Like there is no reason. It's just, I'm not asking you to give up, but like, don't be consumed in that. God's thinking and God's way is completely beyond my understanding, right? Just look at COVID. When it all started, God is punishing everyone, right? And now God solved it with a very small, tiny, virus, right? That's acting like kind of like a vaccine to everyone for free, and nobody is like thinking God did that, you know. So sometimes it's just when you get to that point, just say, I don't know anything about you, Lord. I don't know it, why you did that, why you did so. But I'm just gonna submit my life into your hand. I'm just gonna have peace and joy only in you. I'm just gonna be happy being with you. That's all what I need to be comforted with, really. Okay. So the other part is David. David is in a good relationship with God, even though he was late asking God 3 years, but he's still ready to do whatever God asks him, and he knows how to please God. So God entrusts him with that job. And many times, like, God does not do things according to us at the right time, because he waits for the right person who will do his job. Just like he's waiting so many years for Saint Mary, right? So many years for Saint Mary. Could he have done it with someone else? Maybe, but not at the efficiency that Saint Mary did it, right? So God is willing to wait as much as it takes, okay, for the right person who is willing to do God's way, God's will, God's way at his time. Okay? And we're gonna see this very much in the coming few verses. Is this good? Did I take too long, guys, in this verse? Just one verse. Sorry about that. Manish. You wish it's longer? You reflect on this a bit, Sam. Mm. Yeah. Thank you. That's good. I try to stick to that now. As a priest, sometimes, that's a dangerous part. Mhm. The quality that we're giving into that service and how that service is building up my relationship with God. And the quality and how that service is building up my relationship with God. Because at the end of the day, St. Paul, even in one of his epistles, he says, at the end, as servants, all what we do is going to be examined in a fire, if it's good or bad. If it's a good service, good, it will be added. But if it's not, what's gonna remain is my relationship with God. Even if I did a bad job, but my relationship with God is on good standing, that's what's gonna last. Okay, good. We'll be doing maybe expand on this on the retreat, rejoicing in holiness. Just have to, throw that in there. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Called, verse 2, chapter 21. You guys lost where we are. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. The children of Israel had sworn protection to them, but Saul had sought to kill them in his zeal for the children of Israel and Judah, not for the zeal of God. Right? He explains it right there. Therefore, David said to the Gibeonites, what shall I do for you? And with what shall I make atonement that you may bless the inheritance of the Lord? What? He's asking a strange nation to bless the inheritance of the Lord? How is that even possible? Like, wow, why you're they're not even Israelites and you're asking them to bless you? When have we ever went, outside church or someone who's not Christian to ask them, bless me? Have you ever done that? Ask someone who's not Christian, bless me? Let alone a stranger. Have you ever asked any one of your friends in the church to bless you? And this is huge. It's one word or like a phrase, but it's huge. The Israelites have always thought that they are the blessing of everyone around them, and in God's promise to Abraham, he told him, I will make you a blessing to everyone around you. يعني انت بس كده, sitting among other people, they get blessed. Right? You are going to be a blessing yourself. So now King David comes and says, oh, bless us. طب فين الpromise يعني? Right? And this is the amazing part of David. If it's Saul, Saul would have done it differently. Just did the mechanical, the superficial part. God, what do you want me to do? And he will do. But we're gonna talk why David did this. Yes. Yeah.
I'm just, it looks cool that David knows all well, and we see that the problem with Saul is that his pride came in place, where he was like, I'm the children of God, and are we can mess with us, so we'll kill you.
Yeah.
So, and God knowing, and I think because David knowing the heart of God, he knows God well, he knew what the problem was, and he knew that pride was the problem. So he tried to atone for that with humility.
I love it. I love it. Yes. David knew that Saul's problem was pride, or that is a pride, big part of it. And he had to counter that with humility. You know? Yeah, I love that. Counter that with humility. He has to bring humility in to slay pride. Good. Thank you. That's a great addition. I love that. And guys, when you come with those points, valuable. Don't keep them for yourself. Share them. Share the wealth. Good. So David goes and basically says to these guys, I'm really, basically like he's saying, really sorry. Please forgive me and bless me. When we do a mistake against another person, the easiest part is to do what? I feel bad about it, right? And then if I want to do a little bit more about it, I'll go and confess to God. Confess to God in front of Abuna. Abuna absolve me. بس طبعا Abuna sometimes يعني بيبقى غلس. Abuna يقول لك ها, did you apologize or not yet? And it's like, do I have to apologize? Really? What made me come to confess today, Lord? Right? But this is what David did, right? He knows what God wants. He could have went to the priest and confessed that this is what we've done wrong. And he could have done a sacrifice of atonement, because it's one of the sacrifices is when you make trespass against another person, you bring a sacrifice and offer to God. It's easy to offer a sacrifice, but it's very hard to offer a sacrifice of love to other people. What do we pray in the liturgy? Through the intercessions of the Mother of God, Saint Mary, O Lord, grant us the forgiveness of our sins. Worship thee, O Christ, with thy good Father and the Holy Spirit, for thou hast come and saved us. A mercy of peace, a sacrifice of praise, right? Mercy, peace, sacrifice of praise. And praise does not come without love. Praise does not come without love to God, love towards my brother and sister. Then I will praise God. The walls of Jerusalem shall be built, then offering shall be given to God, right? Then they shall offer cause upon your altar. Cannot offer sacrifice without building a wall, without building love, you know? So this is what King David is doing, offering love, apologizing, forgiving, seeking the forgiveness of the others, right? It's very hard, you know, yani, many times it's very hard to forgive, but sometimes I could feel better about myself because I'm forgiving someone. I think it's easy. Sometimes I find it as a priest, it's easy, sometimes maybe relatively somewhat easy to convince someone to forgive so that I could be in the image of God who forgives us our sins. But it's very hard to convince someone to go and ask forgiveness. Have you ever thought of, like, can you go and ask for forgiveness from someone? It's very hard. I cannot even accept or admit that I'm mistaken. Even if I'm mistaken, oh yeah, I have my reasons, so what? Right? So when we admit our mistakes, we ask for forgiveness. And that's what God said, you know, you have to go. And one of the conditions that God puts before coming to offer sacrifice, before coming uniting to the body and the blood of Jesus Christ, is to be forgiving to everyone and to ask for the forgiveness of anyone that I have, you know, wronged. That's, and God says, like, if you remember you have something against your brother or sister, you have to leave your sacrifice on the altar and you have to go and do that before you can come. You cannot come and unite to me without having that. And this is what King David is doing. And that's why God gave him this task, because he knew he's gonna do it in the most perfect way. He's going first to ask forgiveness, right? And to satisfy them before coming and asking God to bring grain and to take away the famine, right? Okay, let's continue. Verse 4. How far are we? Oh, and we're on verse 3. I'm not gonna finish this chapter today. Okay, and the Gibeonites said to him, we will have no silver or gold from Saul or from his house, nor shall you kill any man in Israel for us. بص الحلاوة. يعني هم they're strangers, but look, they're nice still. We don't want any silver. We don't want anything حتى from Saul. We don't want that. We don't want even to kill anyone from Israel. So he said, whatever you say, I will do for you. What else I can do? You know, I can satisfy you or like please you. Then they answered the king, as for the man who consumed us and plotted against us, that we should be destroyed from remaining in any of the territories of Israel, let 7 men of his descendants be delivered to us, and we will hang them before the Lord in Gibeon of Saul, whom the Lord chose. And the king said, I will give them. Whew. They're gonna take, they asked for 7 men to hang them in front of the Lord. Is this to please God? Are they going to hang 7 men just to please God? We're gonna find out about that next week. Okay? Stay tuned. Okay? Okay? Glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. Questions?